July 10, 2025, over 2,000 U.S. Special Forces, backed by stealth drones and armored tanks, descended on the heart of one of the most brutal criminal empires in the world, the human, drug, and arms trafficking syndicate built by two American brothers, Lucas and Jared Stone. By the end of the assault, more than 3,000 cartel gunmen were dead or in custody. Over 2,000 civilians had been pulled from underground prisons, some marked for organ harvesting, others awaiting transport into the darkest corners of the global sex trade. The precision was staggering. Not a single civilian or U.S. soldier lost their life. How did America pull off an operation this clean, in a place so dangerous, against an enemy so entrenched? What secrets were buried in this jungle fortress? And why did the Pentagon unleash weapons reserved for war zones? We're about to find out. In the lawless shadows of the Darién Gap, a choking, unforgiving stretch of jungle straddling Panama and Colombia, stood a fortress unlike anything on Earth. Not made of stone, but of firepower, fear, and flesh. Here, Lucas and Jared Stone, American-born brothers and former U.S. Special Forces operatives, had forged an empire. It wasn't built on ideals, it was built on exploitation. They were not cartel bosses, they were warlords. Their private army of over 3,000 fighters trained in tactics lifted straight from U.S. military field manuals, recruits drilled like Marines, deployed like Rangers, and carried the weapons of frontline soldiers, heavy machine guns, shoulder-fired missiles, armored transport vehicles, and stolen anti-aircraft systems. Everything was concealed beneath the jungle canopy, guarded by overlapping layers of snipers, motion sensors, and booby traps. The Stones' enterprise was more than drugs. It was industrial-scale human trafficking. Over 5,000 civilians from across Central and South America disappeared into their network. At least 126 were confirmed U.S. citizens. Some were forced into slave labor, others sent to organ farms. The most horrific cases were victims marked for shipment into Southeast Asia's Golden Triangle, a black hole of sexual slavery. Their base, Silencio, the Silence, sprawled across 37 square miles of uncharted jungle. No one who entered ever came out. Rotorcraft patrolled the skies. Rivers were controlled by armed, converted fishing boats. Why the U.S. couldn't strike earlier? For 4 years, multiple U.S. task forces tried to breach Silencio. Every attempt failed. The jungle itself was a weapon, thick, wet, and deceptive. Mud-swallowed vehicles, canopy-blocked satellites. Humidity-crippled drone optics, hidden ravines funneled attackers into kill zones. The Stones embedded civilians directly into their defenses. Schools, clinics, family housing, all built to deter airstrikes and mask bunkers. Any assault risked mass casualties. The line that was crossed that changed when President Trump was presented with incontrovertible proof to American children, ages 9 and 13, found in a holding cell awaiting surgical dissection. From that moment, Silencio would no longer be treated as a cartel stronghold. It would be treated as a battlefield. Years of frustration the U.S. had been trying for years. Between 2021 and 2024, at least 6 covert strikes were launched by Delta Force, SEAL Team 6, and CIA Special Activities Division operatives. Every time, the result was the same: failure, retreat, and American dead. In Operation Black Torch 2022, 19 U.S. Special Forces soldiers were killed when their Black Hawks were ripped from the sky by shoulder. In 2023, a 12-man recon team vanished just 18 miles from the compound. They were never found. The jungle gave the Stones every advantage. Soldiers found themselves disoriented, trapped, and hunted by an enemy who knew every vine, every sinkhole, every false trail. Then there was the civilian camouflage. The Stones built mock villages with real people, schools, churches, even staged weddings to hide munitions and fighters. American troops hesitated to fire. That hesitation cost lives. In one raid, U.S. forces entered a compound only to discover 80 charred bodies, to 17 of them children. The building had been wired to detonate the moment troops breached the door. Silencio was not just a fortress, it was a minefield of morality, where every decision risked tragedy. Children, every single one believed to be a victim of human trafficking, were among those trapped inside. The cartel, cornered and desperate, during the raid, set the building ablaze in a scorched earth tactic meant to erase evidence and punish any who might escape. Washington found itself backed into a corner. Public outrage boiled over. The Pentagon called El Silencio the most fortified non-state stronghold in the Western Hemisphere. Every field operation only deepened the urgency and underscored a brutal truth: conventional tactics were worthless here. If America was going to dismantle this empire of horror, it would take a new kind of war, one fought not only with boots on the ground, but with algorithms, satellites, and surgical precision. Please support us by liking and subscribing to the channel. But before we dive into the war between the gangs and the United States Breaking Point Army, let me ask you, if given the chance to join this fight, would you take it? July 10, 2025, the United States patience finally snaps. After years of deaths, disappearances, and mutilated bodies smuggled out of the Darién jungle, Washington authorizes an unprecedented mission in the Western Hemisphere. Codenamed Operation Iron Justice, this is not a raid, it's an obliteration. The scale is staggering: 2,100 elite troops drawn from U.S. Army Rangers, Marine Corps Raiders, and Delta Force, 30 M1A2 Abrams main battle tanks, 45 Stryker armored fighting vehicles, 12 M109A7 Paladin self-propelled howitzers. But the real game changer comes from the sky. At the heart of the assault is the MQ-20 Avenger, America's most advanced unmanned hunter-killer drone, outfitted with facial recognition AI, multispectral infrared imaging, and real-time target discrimination algorithms. It can tell an armed rebel from a civilian with 98.7% accuracy, even beneath dense jungle canopy. Each drone feeds data to the Sentinel network, a satellite constellation scanning 30 square miles every 11 seconds, mapping heat signatures, weapons caches, and human movement. This tech can create a 3D replica of enemy compounds down to individual bedrooms. Meanwhile, 3 Arleigh-Burke-class destroyers in the Caribbean unleash Tomahawk Block 5 missiles. These aren't ordinary cruise missiles, they carry armor-piercing warheads and onboard AI that can reroute mid-flight if civilians enter the blast zone. Their targets: the cartel's defense hubs, communications centers, and power relays, crippling the enemy before a single soldier steps foot on the ground. Civilian safety is paramount. The battlefield is split into 30 tactical grids, each monitored by drones, satellites, and command teams using augmented reality displays. Live biometric data tracks hostages' locations in real time. Even the Abrams tanks carry active protection systems and precision GPS targeting to minimize collateral damage. One Pentagon general summed it up: "This isn't a hammer blow. It's a scalpel guided by satellites, drones, and discipline." Every step, every blast radius, every possible refugee movement was accounted for. For the first time in the war against organized crime, the full might of military-grade total war was fused with Silicon Valley's most advanced algorithms. This was more than a mission, it was justice, measured in meters, seconds, and megawatts. After years of failure, America wasn't just coming back, it was coming back with math, steel, and an uncheckable intent not to miss. 3 o'clock hours, July 10th, 2025, Darién Gap. The night sky fractures in silence as 12 MQ-20 Avengers streak across the jungle canopy. 20 seconds later, their first payloads strike. For key command nodes vanish in fireballs, severing cartel communications. Moments later, 6 Tomahawk Block 5 missiles descend, smashing radar posts, weapons depots, and reinforced guard towers structures once thought indestructible. The Stones cartel plunges into chaos. From the south, 3 battalions of U.S. Army Rangers advance under a shroud of drone-deployed smoke and radar jamming. Silent comms and infrared goggles guide them as they breach defenses and flood the compound, over 30 Abrams tanks crush barricades, their 120mm heat rounds shredding bunkers like paper. From the north, Marine raiders repel from 8 MH-60 Seahawk helicopters landing mere yards from prison cells within 12 minutes. They overrun the holding zones and free 2019 citizens all minutes away from being sold into organ harvesting or global sex trafficking networks. The cartel fights with ferocity RPGs, 50 cal machine guns, and landmines, turning the central plaza into a war zone. But US troops are ready. Javelin teams erase enemy positions block by block. M109 howitzers deliver precision strikes from the perimeter, obliterating enemy concentrations while leaving civilian shelters untouched. The death toll was staggering: 337 cartel fighters eliminated, among them the infamous brothers Lucas and Jared Stone. Their bodies were pulled from the twisted ruins of a bombed-out command bunker, their reign reduced to rubble. Another 728 cartel operatives were captured alive, now awaiting trial for crimes against humanity. Not a single American casualty, not one civilian death. Silencio, once considered an untouchable fortress hidden deep within one of the most impenetrable jungles on Earth, had been erased from the map. 40-foot perimeter walls, heat-shielded bunkers, vast underground tunnel networks, all obliterated in a single night. Its legacy of fear, greed, and brutality was gone in under 3 hours. From the command deck of the USS Roosevelt, a single encrypted message traveled back to the Pentagon: objective cleared. All hostages secured, resistance neutralized. The United States had just completed the most surgically precise large-scale counter-cartel operation in modern history. It didn't just liberate victims, it rewrote the rules of war. As the smoke drifted over what was left of Silencio, the numbers told a story of total collapse. Over 3,000 cartel soldiers dead, more than 700 in custody, and 2,000 innocent lives freed from cages, chains, and execution orders. What was once a city of shadows had become a graveyard of tyranny. The bodies of Lucas and Jared Stone were found deep beneath the collapsed concrete of their command bunker. Forensic teams confirmed their identities through DNA and dental records. Their deaths were more than the downfall of an empire. They were the death of a myth, the belief that terrain, weapon stockpiles, and human shields could protect evil from justice. News of the operation spread like wildfire. Images of freed children clinging to US soldiers, of shattered bunkers and seized weapons caches flooded the global press. For the first time, many victims of trafficking had faces, names, and finally a future. The Pentagon issued a short but thunderous statement: there will be no sanctuary for monsters, no borders for justice, no mercy for those who sell human life. Cartels across Latin America, Africa, and Southeast Asia went into panic. Intelligence intercepts revealed command networks shutting down, bank accounts being drained, assets torched, and traffickers fleeing to remote hideouts. The message had been heard loud and clear: any group that threatened US citizens or humanity itself would be hunted. Not as mere criminals, but as enemy combatants. Yet this was more than a tactical triumph. It was a moral one: no civilians killed, no American losses. The strike proved that overwhelming firepower and surgical precision could coexist when guided by discipline, technology, and unwavering resolve. For the world's most violent trafficking syndicates, the new reality was undeniable. You can run, you can hide, you can dig deep into the jungle or build underground citadels, but cross the line, and the full weight of the United States will find you. When it does, there will be no warning, no negotiation, and no survivors. The destruction of Silencio was not just the end of a cartel, it was a declaration. For decades, cartels, warlords, and transnational syndicates had thrived on the assumption that bureaucracies were slow, borders sacred, and that even the most heinous crimes could be hidden in jungles, beneath children, and under layers of corruption and fear. That assumption is now dead. The US didn't just dismantle a criminal empire, it exposed a dangerous truth. The global black market for human lives has evolved into something fortified, militarized, and strategic. From this day forward, so too will the response. The strike on the Stone Brothers marked the dawn of a new military doctrine. Cartels treated as insurgent armies, met not with subpoenas but with satellite tracking, drone swarms, and armored battalions, where justice is not served at the slow pace of courtrooms, but delivered at 2,000 feet per second. But this victory was never about vengeance. It was about redemption for the voiceless victims, for the children lost in shipping containers, for the families who refused to give up hope. Now the world watches and wonders, will America bring this doctrine to Somalia? To Myanmar? To Eastern Europe? Will hybrid warfare spill beyond jungles into cyberspace? Or was this a singular strike, a one-time warning to the monsters hiding? In the dark, only time will tell, but one truth is beyond doubt. If you traffic human lives, America will find you. And when it does, it will not ask twice if you believe the world needs stories like this, raw, real, and unfiltered. Like, subscribe, and share. Your voice helps expose the truth and bring light to the darkest corners of our world.